Hi, and welcome to my show. My name is Shanley. I'm a professional engineer. I specialize in renewable energy. And today I would like to speak about, or the topic of today's show is load shedding, private and national solutions. So, as you may be well aware of, in South Africa at the moment, we're facing the worst bout of load shedding yet. And it's come about as a result of so many of our Eskom power stations failing. One by one, things are failing at these power stations, and it requires units to go down, and they need to be repaired. And as I saw in one article the other day, just as they fix one unit, another unit somewhere else trips because of something else failing. And so, because of this load shedding, there has been an increased attention once again on our current energy situation in the country, but not just at a national level, but everybody's thinking, what can they do about their current load shedding issue? And so in this show today, I would like to talk about some of the solutions that we need to look at, both for private individuals. So what can we as individual electricity users, home users, business owners, what can we do as a solution for load shedding, but also what do we need to do as a country to deal with load shedding? Okay, so firstly, for private individuals, there's a misconception going around that in order for you to beat load shedding, as a solution to load shedding, you need to get solar power. And the fact is that solar is not actually a solution to load shedding. Solar is more a solution to increased energy costs. So if you have high energy costs, you can implement solar, and you could use solar power to reduce your electricity costs, because energy from the sun and solar power, the PV panels and so on, overall it works out much cheaper at a per kilowatt hour level than getting power from the municipality or getting power from Eskom. So solar is not a solution to load shedding. It's more a solution for reducing energy costs. Okay, I mean, you as a consultant, I've spoken to quite a few clients, and very often when I speak to these clients and I try to offer them a solution for reducing their energy costs, and I say, hey, have you tried solar? They say, yeah, no, I already have a generator. And that clearly is demonstrating the misconception that solar is for load shedding. It's not. It's for saving on electricity costs. Often in social settings and also on social media, people be gathering around and speaking about the load shedding issues that we're facing, and invariably somebody would say, man, maybe we should all just go solar. But again, solar is not a solution to load shedding. It's a solution to reducing energy costs. So why is it not a solution? Why is solar not a solution? Well, firstly, because solar panels don't actually provide power to your home or to your business when the grid is down. Okay, the solar panels actually need the solar power system, the inverters, they actually need the grid to be present for them to be able to provide power. And the reason for this is, well, firstly, it's a way of buffering against cloud cover and the changing intensity of the sunlight. So when there's cloud cover, the grid can make up that lack that you need to be able to supply electricity to your home or to your business. The second reason is that it's also a safety feature. If the power is down, yes, the power might be down because of load shedding, but it's also possible that the power is down because of maintenance being done on the electricity grid. And so if your solar panels are producing electricity and the grid is down, and let's say it's down for maintenance, somebody could be working on the power lines, and then your solar panels now provide power, and it goes back into the grid, and that person is now working on this power line, and then they get electrocuted because of the solar panels, the power coming from your solar panels. So for this reason, solar panels don't work when when the grid is down. You do get off-grid inverters, and what they do is, when the grid is down, you can switch over to solar panels, and then they provide power to your home or to your business from the solar panels, independent of the grid. But again, this, when there is cloud cover or when there is, or when it's nighttime, you're not going to have enough power. And then also, so you're not gonna have power to be able to meet your demand when there's cloud cover or when it's nighttime. So again, it's not a solution. Solar in and of itself is not a solution to load shedding. Okay, so what is the solution? Well, Solution is very simple. The solution is getting batteries or getting a generator. And you don't need solar panels to implement batteries. You don't need solar panels to implement a generator. When there's electricity, from the grid, it'll charge up your batteries. And then when the grid is down, that can charge, or you can use the batteries to power your home or your business. And batteries, they tend to be a bit more on the expensive side, but they're more convenient and they're a much more quiet solution than generators. Batteries, unfortunate side of batteries is that they don't last very long. Some batteries need to be replaced after 5 years, and it's quite capital intensive to have to replace your batteries after 5 years. Generator, on the other hand, is much cheaper, lasts much longer, 10, 20 years, depending on how well you look after it. It's also cheap to operate as well, even with the high fuel costs. But generators can be quite noisy and they can be quite bulky. But of course, there are also solutions to that. If you have an issue with noise, or you're worried even about security, you can put the generator in an enclosure, build an enclosure at your premises, where you can put the generator in and you can actually reduce the sound by including some attenuation material in that enclosure. And so you can reduce the sound. And also, if it's in that enclosure, it's also a little bit more safer. It's less likely to get stolen. Also, if you have an issue with the convenience of having to go and turn on the generator and to change over switches and so on, there's also solutions to that. You could have permanent wiring into your building, even into your house, and you can have automatic changeover switches that switch over to generator power when the grid is down. Some generators even come with electric start that is remote started, so you can basically be sitting in your office, press a button, and your generator starts up wherever it is. So with little convenience, you can actually implement a generator. So again then, in your private capacity, batteries or generator, that's your best solution. Batteries more expensive, generators cheaper. What the ideal would actually be to have an optimized combination of both. You could have a small amount of batteries with a generator, a small amount of batteries to just power the kind of essential equipment, and you can have a generator to be there when if your batteries run low or you want to use some high power equipment. So you could have a good optimized combination of both batteries and generator. But again, solar is not the solution. Maybe after you have batteries and you have a generator, maybe then you can decide that you want to reduce your energy costs, you want to reduce your overall electricity costs, or you want to reduce the strain on your batteries, or perhaps you even want to reduce the amount of fuel you're using in your generator. Then you can actually implement solar to reduce those overall energy costs. But again, solar, not the solution to load shedding. Batteries and generator, that's your best bet. Okay, but what about at a national level? What is the solution at a national level? So solar might not be the solution to load shedding at a personal private capacity or personal private level, but solar actually is the solution to our energy problems or our load shedding problem at a national level. But not just solar, a combination of solar, wind, and then also what we call flexible generation. Eskom currently has a shortfall of around 6,000 megawatts. 6,000 megawatts, that's just over 1,000 megawatts more than Medupi or Kusile. So if we were to try to meet this shortfall, the 6,000 megawatt shortfall, and also consider energy capacity requirements in the future, we would need another Medupi and Kusile in order to meet this shortfall, to meet our energy demands. And the bad news is that Medupi and Kusile took around 15 years to construct. And so if we're going to go the route of solving our load shedding problems by building another Medupi and Kusile, we're looking at another 15 years of experiencing load shedding. And it's just out of the question. There's no way that the country is going to survive with another 15 years of load shedding. The good news, on the other hand, is that South Africa has a lot of sun and wind. South Africa has some of the best sun and wind resources in the entire world. And another good part of that is that solar farms and wind farms only take around 2 to 5 years to construct. And most of that time it takes to get a solar plant or a wind farm up and running, most of that time is actually spent in permitting and dealing with various regulations. In 2016, the CSIR conducted a study, And the CSIR found that we could run the country on over 70% of solar and wind, provided that we spread out these solar farms and provided that we spread out these wind farms, and provided that we have some flexible generation that I alluded to earlier on. Flexible generation that could be in the form of gas, gas turbine plants. It could be in the form of energy storage, whether it's pump storage or hydrogen storage, or whether it's battery storage. It could also be CSP, concentrating solar power. But even though we need flexible generation, we don't need a lot of it. Like I said, 70% wind and solar, and then flexible generation can be under 20%. Flexible generation really is just there to do some supply and demand matching for the times when wind and solar are not in the levels that we require it. Again, not a lot of flexible generation, just enough to do that matching, under 20%. In South Africa, we have enough solar and wind resources to be able to meet our energy needs from these resources. We also have the capability to implement some of these flexible generation technologies. We've consulted with grid specialists, and they're saying that the grid is capable of taking on more renewable sources, and it's just going to improve as the years go by. As years go by, our grid's going to improve. Our ability to meet the demand through renewables through the grid is also going to improve. Grid stability will improve, but at the moment we're good enough to be able to implement more renewables. We have sufficient high-class forecasting technologies. We're able to tell what the wind and the sun is going to do with enough lead time to be able to do planning for the supply and demand matching. We have many IPPs, independent power producers, that are capable of implementing renewable plants at the drop of a hat. They're ready to go. You have all these independent power producers, 100 megawatts here of wind, 100 megawatts there of solar, a little bit of flexible generation. So many IPPs ready to go. Within 2 to 5 years, if we go this route, we'll be able to get rid of our load shedding issue. The downside, or rather the flip side of the coin, is that because renewables are the cheapest and the quickest form of energy to implement or generation technology to bring online, private sector also understands this. And so what they're doing is many companies are implementing their own solar and some of them even wind technology, generation, solar and wind generation. So the private sector is fully aware that solar and wind are the cheapest to implement, and so they're going that route, and they will continue to procure these if the country does not. And the downside is that when private companies procure wind and solar resources in order to meet some of their, or to reduce some of their energy costs, they're not considering the country as a whole. Okay, if we do it from a country perspective, from a national level, we're thinking, okay, fine, let's introduce more sun, let's introduce more wind. At the same time, we'll ensure that we have flexible generation. So we're looking at it from a country perspective. But in the private sector, these guys are just looking at it in terms of, man, I need to reduce my energy costs, and the cheapest and the quickest way to do that is implement solar, implement wind. And so it puts Eskom in a tricky situation, because this means that Eskom still needs to have the capacity to be able to meet the demand of these private sector consumers when the sun and the wind are not at the levels that they require. So the capacity is required, but that capacity is only going to be used a small percentage of the time for those small instances when the sun and the wind are not enough to supply the energy needed. So Eskom then has to build capacity that's not going to be used all the time, and this increases the overall electricity costs for the general public. So that's the downside of not going renewables. Private sector will do it themselves, but then it's going to mean that each and every one of us as private consumers, we're going to be paying more for electricity costs because Eskom has to have the capacity there, but it's not being used all the time. So we're basically going to be paying for capacity that's underutilized. So basically, either we as a country, either we procure more renewable energy, or the private sector will, with the negative implications. But either way, the way forward is renewables, the quickest, the cheapest, and as a country, if we implement it, we'll do it. We'll do all the necessary considerations, and we'll make sure that it gets done properly. So in conclusion, right? batteries or generator in your private capacity, that's your best bet. At a national level, wind, solar, plus flexible generation. And again, flexible generation under 20%. And if we go this route, we will get through this. We will get through load shedding. We can end load shedding with the right thinking and the right planning. So, hope you've enjoyed this video. Enjoy the rest of your day. This has been Shanley Lachman, professional engineer, renewable energy specialist. Until next time.